You gotta get into the groove.
What is up, football fans, and welcome to the Saturday Pigskin presented by Time and Money Saver exclusively right here on the OH.Report. Along with Mansfield's own Effie James, here to drop some knowledge on you about the football games that went down on Friday night. I am Brian Skowronski, back with you for Week 8 action, Effie, and as we get deeper into the season, of course, the weather starts to change here in Ohio. You really never know what you're going to get, but we typically can depend on some cold weather coming through. Definitely some rain is what we saw last night. How much of an impact do you think that has on these games as you get closer and closer to playoff time?
Well, it really does, because that's the one thing when you're training and summer camp and you're having two-a-days, the one thing you're not thinking about is rain, cold, and snow. Even though you know it's coming in Ohio, you don't think about that. In games like last night, the weather played such a huge factor in other games, and it really comes down to can your offense handle a wet football? Can your players deal with inclement weather? It's a big thing, and if it has cost some teams games, and it leads to momentum swings in others. So weather plays a big part in this part of the country, and always has, and sometimes it has championship implications.
Definitely last night, the weather cold here in the area, lots of rain basically throughout all of north central Ohio. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the highlights that went down from Richland County last night and see how it affected those ball games here in the Richland Rundown. It was senior night for the Warriors, Clear Fork at Ontario, and they were fired up out there in the Big O country, but did not kick off the game very well. Quite literally, coach, opening kickoff, Caden Flynn gonna get ghost. It's gonna be 7-0 Colts in just 13 seconds. Not the start you want if you're gonna try to take down an unbeaten.
Wow, special team score, always a momentum swinger, and can really get your game going offensively and defensively for the Colts.
Ontario would answer though. Noah Creed runs one in from 5 yards out. The O-zone didn't even mind it was icy and they're cold out there. They are fired up, but this kid right here, number 2, would help lead a big stampede for the Colts. 46 unanswered points for Clear Fork. Trevon Trammell, who went for a $143 on the ground, 86 in the receiving game, and 5 total scores would help run off, like I said, a ton of points for Clear Fork. Just too many weapons and just too much defense for this team right now.
Right, too much speed, too many weapons. Trammell, both quarterbacks, they've got a lot going at Clear Fork right now, and I don't know if teams like Ontario or many other teams for that matter can slow them down.
Colts are 8-0 for the second consecutive year, while the Warriors have now lost 4 in a row. Looks like they're going to be outside of the playoff picture as we get closer to Week 11. Shelby up by the league at Port Clinton. Whippets still with a good shot at making it to Week 11 if they could beat the Redskins in first quarter, looking pretty good. McGuire Albert, who was so good early on in the season for this team, scrambles for a big first down on a 3rd and long. And then it set up this. Uriah Schwemley from 1 yard out. It's 7-0 in favor of Shelby. Then the ground game got going for the home team. Back-to-back touchdown runs by Cooper Stein would make it 14-7 in favor of the Redskins. The Whippets would tie it up just before the half. It's Albert to baby bro Merrick. But that was all the offense that Shelby could muster on this night on the road, as this kid Stein went for 252 on the ground. That's what statisticians call a lot for one contest. He had 4 touchdowns as well. Port Clinton gets some revenge for last season's 67-7 Shelby beatdown that they gave him. 36-14. The Redskins win it in what will likely be the last meeting between these two schools. Worcester at Arlen Field looking to take down the TY Tigers to clinch at least a share of the OCC. Tigers utilized the run game to perfection last week in an upset at Ashland. Amajiano Robertson got it going again here. Mansfield on top, 7-zip in the second quarter, but Worcester bets it right back. Dylan Dagley sucks in the defenders, tosses it to Braden Taylor for the 8-yard touchdown. And then Senior High driving to take the lead, but it's a fumble! Robertson takes the bag and fumbles it. Tigers had 5 giveaways on the night. Hard to win when you give it away that many times. Third quarter now, Generals about to go on a big run. It's Dagley in for 6 points, 14-7 Worcester leads. Then later on, Dagley about to get loose for 50 plus, and he told me, Coach, this was a busted play, and he just took off. Sometimes players just make plays.
Wow. Quarterback Dagley has looked like he's had great skill and speed all throughout the season. You just didn't think he would be able to show that against the Athletic Tigers, but he had a great game running and throwing the football last night.
Now 21-7, and Taylor's all but gonna ice it. His second rushing play that ended with pay dirt. Generals went up 27-7 in the fourth, and here comes the Generals D to put the nail in the coffin. They picked off Cam Todd 3 times in the game. Worcester wins by 20. They get at least a share of the OCC crown, and they've had a ton of success. I've seen at Arlen Field, they've won 7 of 8 meetings since the OCC started with these two teams in it back in the 2002 season. Let's head across town now to StarTech Stadium on homecoming night for the Rams against visiting Mount Vernon. Jackets would sting the scoreboard first. Charlie Bonham with the grab, and he's going to fight his way in for 6, which the official signals right there. Sophomore Luke Hess had 3 nice grabs for 50 yards. He led the teams in tackle as well. Nice little slippery moves here. I'm told this is going to be the future of Madison football, that kid right there. But all those tricky Yellow Jackets who wear orange for some reason, can't really figure that out. Anyways, off the reverse, it's Andrew Martin powering into the red zone. Mount Vernon would score off that drive, then Wyatt Gregory smashes it into the end zone. Rams would be down a couple of scores, and Mount Vernon would run away with the victory. 41-6, the final score, 5th straight loss for Madison, but it was still a joyous night for the King and the Queen. Let's give a shout out real quick to the Rams royalty, Brooklyn Dill and Tyler Amos. Coach, back in your day, were you a part of any homecoming celebrations?
I absolutely was not. Believe it or not, I was not very popular in high school.
What?
But I had popular friends, so I was okay with that.
I got you. We're going to wrap things up with a wild one in Ashland. So much scoring. We got to get right to it, guys. Arrow Senior quarterback Mitch Heilman had 3 first-half touchdown tosses, a 14-yarder to Parker Hinkle. Then he connected with Brennan Hunt, not once, but twice. One from 46 yards out, the other from 19. It's coming right here. That's a dime. Ashland led 21-7 over Lexington at the break. Then the third quarter came, and the human freight train locked in the flow. Full steam ahead. Cade Stover is going to trim the deficit down to just a score here. And now his backfield mate, Caden Berry, going to jump on the gravy train as well. Destination Tuddyville for him. This is becoming quite the 1-2 punch, Coach, these two kids.
Gaining some confidence and learning what their strengths are as an offense, it has meant everything to the Lex attack, and going into Ashland and playing well is a big thing for the Minutemen at this point in the season.
It was all knotted up as we fast forward now. The Minutemen were up 1. Josh Aiello jumps the route. He takes it in for 6, but coming right back, Heilman drops another dime to Cade McQuaid. Ashland would get the 2. It's tied up. Then file this under, I've never seen it before, a fumble. Offensive lineman Cody Sanders falls on it in the end zone. The officials decide it is indeed a touchdown. Lexington wins on a game-winning fumble recovery by an offensive lineman. Unbelievable. Can't write these things. So I've been pretty pleasantly surprised with Lexington's recent dominance, a 3-game win streak. Did they find Michael Jordan's special stuff from Space Jam, or like, what are you seeing that is driving this train right now that's got them as winners of 4 of their last 5, and they're actually in the playoff picture right now?
You know, we talked the last few weeks about teams finding who they are and expanding on your strengths and working on your weaknesses. And that's something as I look at Lexington's offense, they have really found out who they are and what gives them the best chance to win. And they have really put the load on Stover, and he got some people step up offensively and really have found some weapons on offense. And they play now with tremendous pride and expect to win. I was shocked to see them play so well, obviously, against Mansfield Senior, but then to go into Ashland and play well and stick to their offensive weaponry, if you will. They are very, very surprising. And now, like you said, they are right on the cusp of going to the playoffs. And I think they deserve it. They played extremely well here down the stretch.
I cannot believe this is the same team right now that I saw in week 1 at Ontario that struggled to score 7 points. They're averaging 40 a game in their wins right now. They've won 4 of their last 5. Barry and Cade Stover are just running absolutely wild, coach, and it's a completely different story for Mansfield Senior. They've now lost 4 of their last 5, and offense is such a problem for them.
Sure.
I believe they're only averaging 16.5 points per game their last 5 contests. What are you seeing from the Tigers that's making what was so much talent on the field, and I think it's pretty undeniable, offense look so hard?
You know, I think what happens when you play in a conference with really quality coaching, and all these coaches are really good. Coach Bradley and his staff work extremely hard. I just happen to know that personally. But it's also when the conference staffs, the conference teams know you. And you can tell that the teams now have adjusted to Cam Todd at quarterback and who the Tigers are offensively with him at quarterback, and have tried to really take away some of their weapons and take away some of the things they do well. And defensively, I think the interior play for the Tigers has not been what they want it to be. And because of that, teams have been able, Worcester last night, as solid as they are as a team, they really controlled the line of scrimmage. And because of that, their running game was a huge factor in a rain game. Who runs the ball best in a game where there's rain is usually going to get the win, and Worcester did a great job controlling the offensive line. And I think that's where the Tigers are struggling right now, in the interior.
And what's most surprising to me, because in stretches, Mansfield Senior looks like they're an absolutely unbeatable team.
Absolutely.
They're giving up 33 points a game for the entire season. That's a lot for a Mansfield Senior team with this type of collective talent that they have on there, Effie.
Yeah.
At 3-5, I think that they, in my opinion, would be the most disappointing team that we have here in the area. Would you tend to agree with that?
Well, I think that in terms of the expectations, I would say that the truth of the matter is they still are a very young team, a lot of unproven and untested talent coming into this year. I know I did. I looked at the potential for this team, and sometimes that carries over into expectations. And maybe some of those players maybe looked at that also. It all comes down to execution and performance. They still have an extremely young team, and those guys have not really stepped up, I think, as fast as Coach Bradley would like to. Their learning curve maybe is not as quick as he'd like it to be, but they are, talent-wise, they are probably the most talented team in the league. They just have not shown the execution and the consistency to win ball games, which is what it takes in this very tough league in this part of the state.
And they do play a pretty challenging schedule in non-conference, of course. It hasn't been very easy this year. Didn't get very many wins, though, in that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff picture here in Division III, Region 10, and see where the Tigers and some other teams are sitting right now. Like I was just saying, I think it's pretty hard to believe to see that Lexington not only is in it, they're right in the thick of things, and we don't have the computer points on there for you folks, but I'm telling you, they're only a fraction of a point away from being the number 5 seed right now, Effie. How mind-boggling is that to you that Lexington is in this position right now after they started the season 1-4?
Watching them play, and it wasn't so much the wins and losses earlier this season, it was just the way they looked. They didn't look like a team that had many weapons. They didn't look like a team that was able to put points on the board or stop people from scoring. They have completely turned themselves around, and it's an attitude change. And I've always been a person that credited attitude and changes like that to the coaching. And Coach Gerhardt and his staff has done a tremendous job of changing the attitude, and that has produced better play for his team. And then now they find themselves in the thick of the playoff chase, with a great chance now to get in.
I'm going to say something real bold, that they are going to get in.
Yeah.
Their last 2 games are at home against Madison and Canton South, who have a combined 3 wins.
Right.
So Lexington's going to be a big favorite in both of those. I think they're going to finish the season at 6-4, make their way into the postseason. Chances very slim for Mansfield with a 3-5 record, because now they have Madison still on the schedule. Not a whole lot of points you can get there, and plus Mount Vernon. So at number 12, I think we got to eliminate Mansfield Senior, don't we?
It would take a lot that, probably more than what's probably feasible for the Tigers to get in. The key now for the Tigers is to, you're playing so more for pride now, and, because everything is, the playoff chase and conference chase is totally out of your hands. So you're playing for pride at this time, and what they do have to look forward to is, I've seen teams play well at the end of a season, springboard them into a quality off season and into the following football season. So even though they didn't make the playoffs this year, most people will tell you that we're a year away anyway. But I'm sure that doesn't make the coaching staff feel good at this point. But it is too bad that they probably will not get in on this season.
Let's talk now about Division IV, Region 14, where we have several area teams, including the Shelby Whippets, who had a great opportunity to play themselves right into the thick of things, losing against Port Clinton last night. Can you envision any type of scenario where Shelby figures things out here now that they've lost 4 or 5? Can they bounce back and actually get into the Week 11?
You know, I think what has to happen and what can happen with a team like Shelby is they have to stop looking at themselves in the light of who we have been and what the name across our chest says about us. It's about this team, this group of guys in this locker room. And now, much like the Tigers, we got to go out there and play for pride and play for, the sake of getting better and coming together as a group of brothers and giving our best effort these last 2 games. Now, they're in a position where things could work out their way, and, they just have to see where it falls. But if any team can do it, any staff could do it, Coach Will, his staff, and Shelby, I would say have that possibility. I think they're able to do it. But either way, it's gonna take some work and some things going their way in order for it to happen.
A couple of members of the coaching staff are saying that they're just consistently losing up front right now, and they lost a couple of really key pieces, some nasty kids up in the trenches for them. So that's been a big challenge. And I saw Owen Fisher, who we thought was going to have a fantastic season for them, the sophomore running back. He averaged half a yard a carry last night. Not going to get it done, Coach. So no running game for Shelby. A little bit different story for Clear Fork, who's sitting right now at number 2. They have the opportunity with wins in their last 2 to jump to number 1, and probably will if they're able to beat Marion Pleasant. Sure. I think we agree, right, that they probably are the favorite to win this region. That they could be Final Four bound.
Absolutely, and I think, like we've been talking about with the other teams, the struggle, and I think it's more noticed in today's game. The interior line play really plays a big part. And in high school, you tend to overlook that more probably than any other stage of football. But the Clear Fork interior line, defensively and offensively, has played tremendously well. And because of that, it allows their passing game to get on track. Their running game obviously is very strong, but their interior line play has been consistent all year long. And because of that, they are in a great space, in a great spot to possibly win or be number 1 in this region and make a good run here in the playoffs. And like we talked about the weather earlier, the weather's only going to get worse as you go down the tournament trail. So if they've got a solid interior line play and a solid running game, they could see some success in the actual tournament and playoffs.
And then the other 2 local teams that we have in there, Ontario and then Galleon, they actually play each other this next Friday. Galleon still maybe has an outside chance to get in. The Warriors with 4 straight losses. Looks like they have now played themselves out. Neither of those teams had any big-time performances on Friday night. A few area kids did. Let's take a look at who they are on this week's Friday Night Phenoms presented by MWD Logistics.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Huge night for Trevon Trammell, the Clear Fork Senior running back, on very limited touches, only 15 touches of the ball. Effie went over 215 yards and 5 total touchdowns. You want to talk about efficiency? Hello.
Being able to play in space. Trammell has always been, since he's been getting the ball at Clear Fork, he's able to operate in space. And you don't need that many carries when you're able to operate in space. You get that guy the football, and he's going to eat up yardage and get you scores. So he's been doing that since he's started playing at Clear Fork, and I expect him to do that down the stretch here in the playoffs.
His nickname out there in the valley is the Predator because of all that hair he's got hanging out, and I think it just makes him look faster when it's all blowing in the wind. When he's got that salad flowing, nobody can slow down this Colts offense. Ontario certainly could not last night. Big time win for Clear Fork. Number 2 right there was a big reason why the Colts off to another 8-0 start. Mitch Heilman, in a losing effort, he was fantastic. 5 total touchdowns, and you look at those numbers, over 300 yards through the air. And Lexington, they've been playing pretty solid defensively, so I had to throw him on this list. A big fan of what he did last night.
Yeah, it is. It says a lot about a team and a quarterback and a system to be able to throw the ball almost 40 times in a high school football game is tremendous. That's impressive in itself, but the fact that he was playing in the rain and had such efficiency is even more impressive. The kid obviously is a quality quarterback and has, Ashland has always had a great passing game, but his game last night really showed how special he is as a passer.
And I couldn't agree more. He dropped some dimes last night, just dropped some right into the breadbasket of his receivers and then ran one in as well. Huge night from Mitch Heilman. The Lexington backfield, I wanted to just maybe put one of these guys on there, but you have to make it. This new dynamic duo over there in Lexington, I love it, man. Caden, Barry and the Stover, man. These two, it's like smash and dash. I love it. Stover, 23 carries. He was the workhorse, 193 yards, 3 tutties. But Caden Barry, he mixes things up for them. He's a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, and then you see he's got the burst of speed. He can take it all the way. These two combined, Coach, for almost 350 yards on the ground.
It's great to have competitive backfields, and that's what you have. You have a guy, and it's great. It's friendly competition, I'm sure, between the both of them. Who can get the most yards? Who can break the most tackles? Who can break off the longest runs? And for defenses, that's an absolute nightmare when you don't get a break, when a kid like Stover goes out of the game and another kid, Barry, comes in who's got just enough athletic ability and quickness and can still hurt you in the running game.
Dylan Dagley for the Worcester Generals, the senior quarterback, only 8 of 11 through the sky, 105 yards, but he didn't throw an interception. No touchdowns either, but his efficiency, the 8 of 11, Coach, 70% completion on the entire campaign for him. And just the way that he ran the offense, I was really impressed. I spent a lot of time on the Worcester sideline last night during this game. He gets 2 play calls in before every single snap, and he gets to pick if they're in the right play. Thought he made a lot of great decisions last night.
Well, he did. They run an interesting twist on the option where it looks like a pitch sweep, and he can decide whether to keep it or to run it. And he made some crucial throws in the rain last night. So one of the big plays in the third quarter was a third and maybe 8 or 9, and he made a great throw on a corner route. And then again, you see him running like a trap play, a quarterback trap, which they ran all night successfully against the Tigers. He had an awesome game for the Generals.
He might be the OCC Offensive Player of the Year. I believe he's over 30 touchdowns now, and just the efficiency, what he did last night is pretty reminiscent of what you're seeing week in and week out from that kid. We're going to throw one to Cooperstein all the way up by the lake. 26 carries, 252 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, he also picked off McGuire Albert on the other side of the football. Last year in this game, Port Clinton got flat out embarrassed. They were down 67-0, I believe, at halftime to Shelby. They wanted this one bad, and this kid was a big reason why they were able to upend the Whippets.
We talked about how sometimes your reputation can precede you, and teams don't forget when they get embarrassed by a program, and this is a game that I'm sure Port Clinton had circled on their calendar, and they came in ready to play, obviously. And it doesn't matter that Shelby had lost some of their seniors from last year. They still had to pay for what they've done to this team last year. But great game overall by Port Clinton. And
the scary thing is, he's just a junior and already a Friday Night Phenom this week, Week 8, presented by MWD Logistics. A few of this week's winners, I think, are probably going to be playing on Saturdays. At least I know a couple of them are for sure. On this Saturday, a noon kickoff, Ohio State was able to take care of Minnesota, though it took them a little while to get going. Dwayne Haskins, though, Coach, I know you've been pretty critical of this guy when we've talked. 33 of 44, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions today against the Gophers. You weren't super impressed by what you've seen from him so far. Did he change your mind today?
Well, I love his efficiency. I always have liked his efficiency. And like we talked about before, I think it may be a personal thing with me trying to get used to seeing Ohio State play with a pro quarterback. And, you know, we've been so used to a guy who's been a dual threat. This guy, he is pinpoint accurate. His game today really did impress me. I will say that he threw guys open. He was able to find open receivers, and he led the offense when the running game just wasn't there. So I don't know if I'm on the Heisman train as of yet, but I am impressed with Haskins and the way he has played and led this offense so far.
What's your thoughts on just the other collective weapons that we have? KJ Hill, monster day for him. 9 catches, 187 and 2 scores. Yeah. Paris Campbell, he keeps breaking off at least 1 to 2 big plays every single week. And then you mentioned the running game wasn't there, which is typically not what happens for Ohio State. We can put up about 200 yards rushing every game. What's your thoughts on the other weapons, I guess, stepping up, not named J.K. Dobbins?
Well, I think that the key to it, they have to have that. And like we saw today, the receivers can make plays. They're a very capable receiving core. Of course, we do have to have some concern now, just like we were talking about with the high school games. Interior play, especially down the stretch of the season, is going to win or lose your ball games. And I think today, where the Buckeyes may have struggled, not so much with the weapons, it's the interior line play, because overall the running game has been sound. But tonight, just like any other position, the quarterback can have a bad game. Defense, a linebacker can have a bad game. The offensive line could have a bad game. And I think tonight or today, the Buckeyes' offensive line didn't play as well as they could. But it says a lot for the other weapons on that team that they can still pull out a win when your core group doesn't play as well as they're capable.
And finally, Coach, I want to talk about a Buckeye who is now in the NFL. He was making a big impact on Sundays. Budding star Denzel Ward for the Cleveland Browns, named the Defensive Rookie of the Week for the second time from this past Sunday. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing from this guy? Because I know that super critical a lot of fans were of John Dorsey for making that pick. And boy, I feel like they're eating a lot of crow now.
John Dorsey looks like a hero right now.
Genius.
Denzel Ward, and we talked about it earlier, he is the prototype now. He is the new age cornerback. He's long, he's athletic, he's got great speed. He plays the position well. He's got great closing speed, and he has really made a difference on that Browns defense. And I credit now, it makes you look now to Ohio State's recruiting, because if you look at their defensive backs, they all look like Denzel Ward, and they all play a lot like he does, and that's why so many of them are having success at the next level, because they play a tremendous style of defense. They're left out on an island on Greg Schiano's defense quite a bit, and Denzel Ward is showing that he belongs, and he has been a special talent for the Browns, and as well as Baker Mayfield. So they've really done a great job so far this season.
I'm glad you brought up my man Baker. I think that he's starting to prove that he belongs in the NFL. Yeah. He was worthy of that #1 overall pick that I think a lot of Browns fans also questioned. Yeah. Are you starting to become a believer, not in the Browns' future, but the 2018 Browns right now? Can they contend in the AFC North?
Well, I will tell you this, and we were talking earlier about watching the Browns play, and over the years, I think as Browns fans, we get kind of complacent. We get used to watching the Browns play, kind of like, oh, well, there's a team playing the Browns, and instead of like what we should be saying is like, here's 2 NFL teams trying to win a game, and watching the Browns play. Now it looks like 2 NFL teams trying to win a game. Both have weapons. Baker Mayfield is a lot like Denzel Ward defensively, is the new prototype defensive back. I would say that Baker Mayfield is the type of quarterback that a lot of these teams are going to. You got to be able to make plays outside the pocket. That's just the way it goes. These defensive linemen are too fast, too athletic, so your quarterback can't be a sitting duck. He's got to be a guy that can make plays outside the pocket. And I think Baker has done an awesome job of that, but he also can be pinpoint accurate inside the pocket as well. I think that's why the Browns have had a lot of success here on offense.
I think they're going to continue that success on Sunday, Effie. My prediction, 26-23, Browns win in overtime, because extra sessions is what we do in Cleveland. We're the new cardiac kids. Make sure that you root for them on Sunday. That's going to do it for the Saturday Pigskin. Shout out to Effie, as always, for being here, dropping all that fantastic knowledge on you kids out there. So make sure that you're writing some things down. Get smart. Learn from us. See you next week here on the Pigskin.